Yo, yeah, I know. Yeah, finally. Sorry I'm late. Going up? Where am I headed? Yeah? Okay. Oh, guys. Guys. No, come on. This is fucking... What the fuck? Yo! Oh. Dan! Stu? Hello? Literally anybody. Dan? This shit feels like the end of Jurassic Park. Stu? Okay, this isn't like... This isn't even a bit. This is just here. Oh, God. No. Really? Really? This is fucking talented Mr. Ripley, motherfucker.
For the love of God, at 786-453-4837. Yeah, I know Morgan in Australia. You called 100 times. We don't do wake and bake anymore.
Are you doing here?
Look at this plane. They're sharpie. What the? There's a bucket.
I see.
Look,
no, but the question I asked is still not answered.
This is from the Magic Creative Content. Pick a number between 11 and 17.
12.
What? That's not content.
Okay, I thought we were
the idea
just doing
behind putting this on
another
paper?
bit. That's not okay.
Why so? I mean, we need like thousands more.
No, we need to hose this down. This is actually grosser than the lotion.
Like what?
Are you just pulling wires out of the wall?
This is supposed to plug into something. What is it supposed to plug into?
I don't.
Can you at least
Nothing is plugging into anything.
Take the bucket, please. There's like the one useful thing we have left. Take it, please.
I mean, does anyone smell like fumes in here? Like actual gas? Like not the figurative, but like actual, like there's a pipe leaking and I feel lightheaded. What's the new address? Yeah, of the place where I work now. Yeah, the place that isn't a horrible decision.
I don't know if that made sense as just audio, but I urge you to check out the YouTube page if you want to see what it is the mistake that Pablo made.
It made me miss Chris Whittingham.
Seems like he hasn't left. YouTube.com/LeBatard and Friends.
He's like the guy in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade who's just staying with the...
There he is! Hey. Pablo has arrived! A heroic first day with Pablo Torre. He brings the lotion in. He does not have a microphone.
He put the lotion in a bucket.
He did put the lotion in a bucket.
Is this a sponsor?
Amin, you're going to have to go.
Is there a microphone?
You're going to have to go. That seat is reserved for Ivy League people. We're going to...
God damn.
You don't want to be framed as the elitist? Billy, what were you saying before he got here? That he's aloof?
Oh, hey, guys.
I don't know what you're talking about. What a coward.
You brought all of them?
All of them came with, yes. Amin.
New ones?
Please, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, Amin, and give up the seat for Pablo. He's off microphone. I'd like to hear what he has to say. I think the audience might want to hear what he has to say.
Get out of here.
Saved by the Bell, the new class vibes.
I flew
Who's
4.5 hours. Red eye. I left my family.
Yeah.
This joker just shows up and that's it?
Yeah, but you went to Georgia Tech, so I guess you're not qualified anymore.
Oh! I also went to Arizona State.
Forks up.
The Sun Devils.
I heard Mr. Belding's laughing there.
He brought lotion. Why?
Billy,
Dan is always putting lotion on his legs.
Question. I found it there.
Huh.
Billy, you left. Is that something I should be doing more privately?
No.
Text me later.
Yeah,
I would say so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Billy, was that you with the magic creative content? Give me a number between 11 and 19.
I didn't write that one between 11 and that's a good one.
question.
I wrote
That is
that
a good
down
one.
so we can
That is
bring
a
that
good
back.
one.
Yeah.
12.
Yeah, thank you.
This man is really known for his meticulous research and reporting, and his room looks exactly as I imagined it would, given that he's known for his meticulous research and reporting.
He needs a bookshelf. I mean, I don't know much about books or bookshelves, but I know he needs one.
I believe David Grann is actually living at the Clevelander based on my experience earlier today.
Martin Scorsese's movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. We were talking about that yesterday. It's 3.5 hours. It's based on his book. He's also got a new book, The Wager, A Tale of Shipwreck, Mutiny, and Murder. That's out this week, and Scorsese bought the rights for that one, too. David Grann, welcome to the show. Thank you for being on with us. What is your relationship with Scorsese? What have you learned about why it is that he's so infatuated with your writing?
You know, I've never asked him, but I think there is something in these stories that I find that have a certain kind of power. Killers of the Flower Moon dealt with one of the worst racial injustices and most monstrous crimes in American history. It was something that had largely been kind of excised from our conscious. And I think he was drawn to that, to try to explore that. I mean, it really deals with complicity and to a great deal evil and racism. So I think he was drawn to that. And The Wager is a crazy madcap sea yarn and an exploration of human nature and violence and the human condition. What happens when you get stuck on a desolate island, you know, when you're starving and you begin to fight not only the natural elements, but your own shipmates. So I think it's those themes and something in those stories that draws him to them.
What are you fascinated by regarding shipwrecks and old boats?
So, you know, this was The Wager is a kind of a crazy story. You know, I've always been fascinated by sea tales. I've also always been fascinated by mutinies. You know, what is it that causes a military organization that is an instrument of order to suddenly have some of its people to rebel? You know, are they these outlaws, or is there something rotten at the system in some cases that may justify it? And when I was doing research on mutinies, I came across this story from the 18th century. You know, it seemed like a long ago. I wasn't planning on writing about the 18th century, but you know, the story kind of had everything. It had scurvy, it had typhoons and tidal waves. It then had a shipwreck on a desolate island where the men slowly descend into a Lord of the Flies with warring factions and mutiny and murder. But the thing that really drew me to the story was not only its gripping nature, but was how it seemed to resonate with today. Because some of these castaways, they end up making it back to England, which is a crazy saga to itself. And once they're there, after everything they've been through, after waging war against all these elements, they're suddenly summoned to face a court-martial, and they could be hanged for their alleged crimes on the island. So they begin to kind of spin these stories, trying to spare their lives and influence the public, and it begins this war over the truth. And so I was doing research and looking into the story. I would be, going to the archives and learning about disinformation and misinformation, even allegations of a fake news. And then I would come home and I'd turn on the TV or read the paper, and I'd hear the same damn thing. So, in many ways, this particular story felt like a parable for our times.
David, it's hard not to listen to you describe the resonance that story has in the present without recognizing the resonance it has in the room I'm in right now. How would you advise Dan Le Batard to avoid a mutiny from people who may also have scurvy, questions about the truth, as well as a general resentment of their new leader?
Yeah, the key is don't rule by the lash. The lash really never works. You know, it only works so long for these captains on a desolate island. And then at a certain point, it fails. The best leaders and the best commanders cajole, sympathize, and inspire.
Cajole. I think you got the cajoling part.
I've got the producers for my show wondering something that I now have to ask you, even though I too am interested in old boats and shipwrecks. The Room, The room is to explain it to the audience. You can also see it on YouTube if you're not just on audio. You have
YouTube.com/LeBatard and Friends.
So many files on the floor, so many books on the floor. There is no furniture that we can see. There are crates with files in them. What is happening there? How many cats do you have?
That's the big question. We have set the over-under at 4.5.
Over. How many?
Over.
Pick a number between 12 and 17.
Is there a saucer of milk for cats outside that door?
There's a room for cats.
No, I closed the door to keep the cat from getting in, to be honest with you.
You have a cat. A cat. One cat.
That's a cat.
David?
The cat pisses wherever it goes, so I can't let it piss on my documents.
David, go ahead. We'll filibuster. Open the door. I'd like to see if the cat does make its way in at one point so that we could just enjoy the cat's work. We'll wait for you to get back. It's fine.
Well, you may get the dog, too, so I just want
That's fine. That's fine. Let's have
cats and dogs.
Let's go.
Definitely has a bird.
Let's have it. Let's have it.
Multiple birds.
I think he's self-conscious about one cat. He's got a lot of cats.
All I have to say, Dan, is if that cat pisses on some 18th century valuable document, I'm coming for you.
Do you have a bird?
Any birds? Any other animals in the house? Any other animals? A wild boar?
It.
Okay,
no,
that's
just desperate humans, which are the most dangerous creature of all.
I'd like to do with you, if you don't mind, because people need to know your research is, I don't know a lot of people who do this as meticulously as you're doing it. So in terms of astonishing facts that you have learned about shipwrecks, could I do a top 5 with you in reverse order? Because you must have in those books there thousands of fascinating shipwreck facts.
Yes, I will give you facts about shipwrecks, but also about the age of sail a little bit, because I think that's what a lot of these documents happen. So let's start. I don't know which order these are in, but let's start.
No. You got to respect the order. You got to respect the order. We got to go from 5 to 1 here.
All right, 5 to 1. But here's the one thing to remember. Some of these facts are very gory. Okay. Limes or even sticks of celery, they can save your life. Back in the times of the wager, they lacked in their diet fruit and vegetables, so they didn't have enough vitamin C. So they began to suffer from scurvy. They didn't know what caused it. Their hair would fall out, their teeth would fall out. Then the disease would get into their brains and they would go raving mad. So this is the astonishing fact about shipwrecks. Well, more people died of scurvy during the age of sail than of shipwreck. So just, if you go to sea, bring a lime. Number 2.
Number 4.
Oh, number 4. I'm in the reverse order. Oh, gosh.
First top 5.
Is that number 1?
Yeah. It's okay. That was not number 1. No, that can't be number 1.
That was 5. I just can't count. I can write, but I can't count.
I cannot stress how much we're just watching the doorway right now.
Yeah.
I'm locked in.
Number 4.
Don't bring a cat on a ship. No. Back then, when a seaman died, he had to be buried at sea, and the body was wrapped in a hammock along with at least one cannonball. But one thing was crucial. When the hammock was sewn together, you had to make sure you made the last stitch go through the victim's nose to make sure he was actually dead. Otherwise, you may be burying somebody alive. So just always make sure, put that stitch through the nose. Okay.
Number 3.
Thank you. Count for me.
Writing these down. Hold on.
For centuries, seamen never knew where they were on the map, and this is why there were so many wrecks. They could measure their latitude by reading the stars, but they had no way of knowing their longitude because they needed reliable clocks to measure it, and they had not yet been invented. So they had to rely on dead reckoning, which was essentially some informed guesswork and a leap of faith. In my book, The Wager, before it wrecks, its estimation of its longitude turns out to be wrong, not only by 100 miles, but by hundreds of miles, and it ends up hitting this submerged rock. So bring at least, if whatever age we're in, bring at least the clock on your boat if you don't want to wreck. Dead reckoning was the reason why so many people ended up dead. Okay, what number am I on?
Number 2.
Number 2, okay. Forget the Bermuda Triangle. Stay away from Cape Horn. Cape Horn at the very tip of the South America is probably the most dangerous place for ships anywhere on Earth. And that is because it's the only place where seas flow uninterrupted around the whole globe about 13,000 miles accumulating power.
The Drake Passage.
Yes, the Drake Passage. Well, that is part of the Drake Passage when you come around Cape Horn, exactly. And it all just funnels through there. And
Drizzy.
And you get this 90-foot wave that can dwarf a mast. You have the strongest currents on Earth, and you have winds that can accelerate to as much as 200 miles per hour.
How come?
Because they just funnel through there, and again, there's nothing to block the wind. Nothing blocks it. It just keeps whipping around. So that is the place to avoid. Herman Melville compared it to a descent into hell in Dante's Inferno. So stay away from Cape Horn. That's where ships wrecked. The Spanish, when they had their empire, were so afraid of Cape Horn, they used to take their ships to Panama on the Atlantic side, then take their cargo and hump it across the jungle and die from malaria and yellow fever, and then load it on.
All right. This is a little Cape Horny, if you ask me.
All right.
What are we doing?
I'm moving on. I get
Cape
into my
Horn.
Cape Horn. All right, Cape Horn, done.
Hold on. Before you get to it, though, Juju, put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Did you know Cape Horn was more dangerous than the Bermuda Triangle? And finally, number one.
You were humping something around there, and I think you knew what you were doing.
It was the semen.
Way too much semen in the show.
Wait, sorry.
This is the Harvard
This is what
education.
happens when you spend years with these documents. I can bore you to death. Okay.
More cursing than a Scorsese movie.
Yeah. Okay. All right. This isn't really about so much about shipwrecks, but did you know that half the idioms, or so many of the idioms you use today, came from the Age of Sail? This was something I did not know before I worked on the ship. Scuttlebutt, for example, was the barrel on these ships where the men would get their rations of water and they would gossip. So that was what scuttle hot. Piping hot, that was the bosun's whistle for a hot meal. Under the weather meant when the seaman was sick, they were actually not on deck, so they were below. So they were literally under the weather. So we say under the weather. And my favorite nautical idiom from this period that we use today is to turn a blind eye. When Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson wanted to ignore his superior's signal flag to retreat, he took his telescope and he put it up to his blind eye, and that's why we say to turn a blind eye.
Didn't know any of those things. The Wager, A Tale of Shipwreck, Mutiny,
What's
and
an idiom?
Murder. I was going to ask you if you knew who Herman Melville was.
Of course, everyone does. Melly.
Can you sing a sea shanty? Do you have?
No.
You don't know any sea shanties.
Well, I have a book. No, I don't sing.
You could
That's
do
my
it.
one
Come
rule.
on.
No,
You could do it, Dave. Come on.
No, can't do it. No,
Here, Kenny.
No. I draw the line. I give my five.
Come on, Dave.
You lay out some milk. Where's the cat?
Where is the cat?
Where's the cat? The cat will come right when we get off the air.
David, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate it, sir.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you all.
Schur has not smiled like this since we went through some 80s utility men with him a while ago. He just saw Pablo Torre, a fellow Meadowlark Media employee. Look at how happy Mike Schur is to see you.
Am I Mike's boss as he is an intern? Is that how this works?
I don't think that he's a direct report to you. I don't think that's the way the org chart works. But why are you so happy that Pablo is sitting here? Why does you're glowing. You're radiant.
I'm happy because someone else has made the same terrible mistake that I did.
You've worked a lot harder than he has. You've been
no question.
Everyone has.
No, everyone. Yeah, this is like he told me weeks ago that he was going to join Meadowlark, and so far he's done nada, zilch. Nothing. This is the first time he's appeared on the show. I haven't read anything. I've heard some interviews where he mostly talked about, I don't know, the 76ers or something. Like, there's been no indication that he is under the employ of Meadowlark Media. I'm very curious to see how you go from here, Pablo. Like, who's going to work harder, me or you, over the next month?
I would say that what I've been doing for the last month has been largely classified in a real way. I'm up to some stuff. And, in New York, we're building out another studio. All you guys seem to do is build studios now. So I'm on top of that.
We're more of a
Metal
real
Arc is
estate
a
company.
secret. It's a
Really?
construction
You're
company.
building a studio? You're on top of it?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
supervising?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mike, we're going to get to the stat of the day in a second, but before we do that, I just wanted to ask you a couple of things, one of which you have sort of an intimate knowledge of. The writer's strike, the possibility of a writer's strike. It is weird what is happening in general around creativity and corporations. So tell me, please inform us on what it is the impact of this is going to be on Hollywood, on your shows, on shows in general.
Well, I am on the Writers Guild negotiating committee, so I can't talk in any detail about what's actually happening. But the issues are pretty plain, I would say. The television industry has been completely changed by the advent of streaming content. And like in every great industry, when there's upheaval, the first thing to happen is that labor gets squeezed in all directions. It's not just writers, it's actors and directors and electricians and gaffers and grips, and everybody who works on a TV set or a movie set is getting squeezed because these companies are taking on an enormous amount of debt. They're looking to save money anywhere they can. They look at a spreadsheet, they see a line item for labor, and they decide to try to squeeze it down to nothing. So we are, not alone in this. Directors Guild is also negotiating with them. Their unions will too, but we're trying to just say, like, hey, just because you're changing the model for the way that you exhibit screen entertainment doesn't mean you don't have to pay people for their labor. So it's interesting. It's this happens every 15 years or so. There's the negotiations for every union happen every 3 years roughly, and most of them are pretty typical. We say we would like to have health care plans and pension funds, and they say we would like you to not have those, and then we negotiate. Every 15 years or so, something really significant has happened. 15 years ago in 2007, it was that they had started putting entertainment through computers and the internet. And we said we would like to be paid for that. And they were like, but the internet's so new. We don't even know what it is, the internet. Who knows if it's even going to catch on. And we were like, no, you still have to pay us. And we went on strike for 100 days in one jurisdiction over the internet. And if we hadn't done that, by the way, half of the Writers Guild, 6,000 people or so, would be working on non-union shows. So it was certainly worth it. If we hadn't done that, I think our pension and health funds would have disappeared entirely. So every so often we have to sort of draw a line in the sand and say, like, hey, I understand this is new technology, but that doesn't mean you don't have to pay people for their work.
Where do you put this in terms of work stresses and professional stresses that you have felt?
It's up there because it's not, the normal work stresses that you have when you're a screenwriter relate to your individual work. This is about a 12,000 member union and the entirety of the future of the industry. I have benefited greatly from writers who have come before me, generations before me, who drew similar lines in the sand and said, we're not going to get squeezed. We're not going to get screwed over here. And because of that, I have a healthcare plan, and I'm acutely aware of sacrifices that folks have made in the past to help me and my peers and our careers, and now we're doing the same thing for future generations. So you do feel the weight of not only the guild, not only the industry at large, but also, people. My daughter is 12. She really loves TV and movies. I think she has the soul of a writer. If she wants to be a writer someday, like, the things that we're doing now are the things that will protect her in her career down the road. So I do feel that it feels more historical and sort of big picture than most of the normal stresses of my job.
It does really feel, Mike, like there's an inflection point that your industry is at. But speaking of people without health care, does this mean you're free to produce my show?
Yeah, sure. Throw that onto my plate too. I'll do the stat of the day. I'll do occasional weekend observations. I'll do...
No, I want the office level stuff. Give me the office level stuff. Like the good stuff, you're kind of like holding back. So if I can get that part for me, that'd be good.
All right, sure, man. Yes, I'll produce your show. Why not? I'll do it for free. I'll do it as an intern. Yeah, great.
Sold.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
I think someone forgot to turn on original sound.
Not our jobs anymore. New studio, new audio ops people, Mike.
Yeah, so
complain to the other people. Mr. Union Solidarity.
I'm complaining to whoever didn't turn on original sound. I'm not naming names. Lakers Grizzlies, game 2 tonight. Normally, I don't put too much stock in the playoff experience thing, but I looked this up, and it's kind of incredible. LeBron James has played in 267 playoff games. The entire Memphis Grizzlies roster combined has played in 149 playoff games. I'm cheating a little because Steven Adams is out for the playoffs, but even if you add his 66 playoff games, it's still 215, which is way less than LeBron. And the Memphis Grizzlies franchise, the franchise itself, which joined the NBA almost exactly the same time that LeBron James did, has only played in 93 playoff games. So LeBron has played in about 3 times as many playoff games as the Memphis Grizzlies franchise.
The level he's still playing at, I know Tom Brady has spoiled us, but it's batshit. Him doing chase down blocks in the playoffs.
Chase down blocks.
On that team. Against Memphis, though. Like a young athletic team. And here's this 38-year-old guy, grandpa, running down the court and looking like he was, 13 years younger.
Yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant, 2 of the most athletic players in the entire association, just heaving deep breaths, exhausted, and LeBron is chase down blocking them at the rim. Yeah, it's incredible.
We're going to let you go here. Just real quick, though, what do you want to happen in this Miami-Milwaukee game tonight? Like, what is your rooting interest?
It's a good question. My son is thrilled that the Heat won game 1 because he doesn't want to play the Bucks. I think I want it to go 7 and then have Milwaukee win. I think that's what I want. I want to drag it out as long as it can.
You want to face Giannis instead of the Heat?
What's the matter with you?
What is the matter with you?
What do you mean, what's the matter with me? I spent months yelling about how the Heat were the most dangerous team in the playoffs. Then they beat Milwaukee on the road in game 1. You're still saying what's the matter with me? What's the matter with you?
All right.
Why don't you see that the Heat are the problem here?
You guys are so funny.
Because they don't have Giannis.
Him and Bill Simmons, both of them. Bill Simmons is like, maybe you beat them in the playoffs, but you'll be standing in a burning house and you'll be covered in blood. And I'm like, they were a few games over 500 and they can't shoot.
He's gesticulating so wildly.
What has to happen? What has to happen for you to admit that I'm right? It's your team. Jeremy Taché is the only sane one. The lunatic Jeremy Taché and the other lunatic Parakeet Cortez are the only rational people in that entire building. Fart Bear?
See you later. Good talking to you, Mike. Always appreciate your time. We will talk to you again tomorrow. I wanted, even though you've been displaced here by the yammering Pablo Torre.
He's not happy about it.
I mean, why would he be happy about it?
I've only begun to yammer, by the way.
Uh-oh.
I hope you guys liked all his jokes, by the way, in the last segment.
Well,
real mature. Ivy League material. Good job.
It was the age of sail,
What jokes?
The age of sail.
I am with you. The flash of radiance that spread over the room when the author mentioned seamen. Like all of you were jumping at the microphone. Everybody had a different joke.
Not the first time, the second time, though.
No, about every time. How about every time? Draymond.
There was a lot of semen.
Yes, there was. After
There always is.
What we saw.
Clean up on aisle 4.
That's why you have a gym sock.
Captain Jack.
Gym sock, huh?
Thank you. Captain Jack.
Draymond Green, gets suspended for a game. Joe Dumars is the vice president in charge of discipline. I can't imagine what he thinks has happened to his NBA, given that he played with Rodman and Lambeer. And this is getting Draymond Green suspended, which I think most reasonable people who aren't clouded by emotion are saying, man, if Sabonis is grabbing him first, that might not warrant everything that he's getting. But I don't think, even though in the statement they said that his past is being held against him, it's the reputation. I thought also what got him suspended wasn't just the act and wasn't just his resume. You cannot have him doing, even though I enjoyed it, what he was inciting afterward, where he's screaming pussy and all sorts of other things at the crowd, at the customers. He's standing on the bench and he's just screaming again and again these things that are inciting, and it's as if we've forgotten Malice at the Palace. It's as if we've forgotten that during the pandemic that they were throwing popcorn. They were spitting on Trae Young, fans were, and throwing popcorn at Russell Westbrook. They cannot have that escalate to that place. I don't know whether they can say that because they didn't say it, but I assume that's why he also got the suspension, all of those ingredients.
Yeah, the technical term is failure to leave the court in a timely manner. That's the catch-all for whenever you're doing the kind of histrionics that he engaged in. But the exact quote from Dumars in the press release is, the suspension was based in part on Green's history of unsportsmanlike acts. I mean, they're playing it to you in black and white, and I said this yesterday. One would think that after what happened in 2016 would be enough of a traumatic experience for a competitor like Draymond Green that he would just at least think a little twice. And what he did in that game was unbridled, just no checks, no balances rage. And I don't care if Sabonis grabbed his ankle. Kick the guy. If he kicked him, I think, like, kind of try to kick his leg free, I think he could have gotten away with that. But the stomp, the jump up off of the chest, and then follow that up with cussing at the crowd and not leaving the court, and then no contrition in the post-game presser. Not like, I got to do better, control my emotions, or even just no comment it. For him to kind of relish in the idea that, they didn't call it, so I had to take matters in my own hand. All of it spells out to a disciplinary committee or a disciplinary person that this guy is not regretful in any way. There's no remorse. And as a result, all those things lead up to, I got to come up with a punishment. It's going to be a suspension. I don't know if anyone could have been surprised about that.
The other detail, though, that I heard on the broadcast last night was that Adam Silver was in the building.
Yeah.
So Draymond Green was doing all of that with Adam Silver, the commissioner that all of us mock for being soft on players, as that guy is watching. And it felt like, it was surprising to me for two reasons. One, it felt like it was, if you're talking about the NBA as this pseudo, like Joe Dumars as the head of a pseudo criminal justice department. Like, okay, you're also rewarding Sabonis. Like, this is all gamesmanship. One guy got a major W off of the disciplinary program. The other aspect, though, is
the guy who started it is getting the giant reward.
Yes, his plan, grab Draymond and then see whatever happens. Like, that's an enormous, successful project that he just completed. The second thing, though, is that I felt like Adam Silver, if I'm him and I'm imagining myself being criticized from all sides as being too soft on players, as really not being that progressive, really only being, by comparison, progressive because I have alliances with young black celebrities, I'm thinking to myself, he's essentially daring me not to do this as he's staring at me, even if he's completely unaware that I'm actually here.
He might as well have been yelling the things he was yelling right at Adam Silver, in Adam Silver's face. And I would ask you this, Amin.
But why are we factoring those things in? Like Adam Silver just happened to be in the building, what Draymond Green did 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons ago. Why are we factoring that into this suspension? Because it seems ridiculous.
Well, Adam Silver spoke to Draymond Green after the Jordan Poole incident, which was a big incident, a hugely embarrassing one, and he got away with no real punishment.
No, it's because it's HR, Stu. It's not actually criminal justice. It's an HR issue.
I know, but it's an incident that he didn't start, and everyone seems to, to be bypassing that fact right there.
But he escalated.
Draymond Green did not start it.
People do that stuff all the time, and
Mike,
you think
he does
curb
it?
Stomp their opponent.
Wait, but do you think he does it if his ankle isn't grabbed?
No, but that's not the original sin here. Like that. He's being an agitator the way that Draymond Green would be an agitator, the way that most people do that to stop a fast break. Is it dirty pool? Yes. Is it something that is worthy of that kind of stomp? Absolutely not, especially when you have the history that Draymond Green has.
Stugotz, we talked about this yesterday. Dennis Rodman would do this with Karl Malone all the time, hook his arm and pull his shorts and all this stuff that's, like Mike said, it's kind of dirty, kind of small tactics. But the idea is that Dennis Rodman is the master manipulator, and he gets Karl Malone out of his element, and boom, obviously the guy who retaliates is always the guy that gets caught because they usually miss the small stuff. It's the same thing here. The difference is Dennis Rodman was a 15 or 14-year vet at that time, and so was Karl Malone. He'd been in the league a while. These are two vets going at it. This is Draymond Green, 4-time champion. Dude, you've been here to the mountaintop so many times. You're going to get got in your own game by a dude who's never been past the first round. When you're down 1-0 in a series, you got to have more poise than that. And
yes.
I'm here for, hey, Sabonis should have got fined or something for what he did. I'm fine with that. But there's no universe where it's like, well, Draymond was clearly justified in doing what he did.
Well, that's where I believe the Kings deserve a lot of credit for how they've handled this. Purely from the gamesmanship aspect, right? Like the Kings, first off, this press release came out after 11:30 p.m. last night. So this was not an easy decision. There was clearly debate. Joe Dumars, Adam Silver, all of these people around a table.
It was a weird time to have a midnight suspension announced. It made me think that there's no other player in the NBA that would have been suspended for all of those same things being in play.
Well, the other aspect, though, that I was wondering about was what have the Kings been saying behind the scenes? Because this other report that said Sabonis may not actually play. Like, that to me is the trump card. If Sabonis cannot play, you cannot let Draymond Green play. And I believe that threat, Dan, that threat was the thing that Draymond got hoisted on. That was the petard. The Kings out-Draymonded him gamesmanship-wise.
It's actually a Budapest gambit.
I mean, I think it's funny that they're saying Sabonis chest injury questionable, and I saw the videos after the game of him in celebration chest bumping all of his teammates.
Well, that's why you need the Kings defense attorney, man.
But
no, you never saw that. The X-ray is very troublesome now.
Is he actually injured? Because also Draymond was saying that his ankle was hurt. Correct? Like they were both.
That's a nice move by Draymond right there.
They were both claiming injuries. Do we think that Sabonis is actually hurt here? Because they listed him as questionable. Did they do that to get Draymond suspended?
The injury they're saying is bruised sternum. Right? Feels like Draymond's got a bruised ego right now.
There's big Salino and Barnes energy around this entire thing.
And
it's
John
like
Levine,
Billboard
we're
lawyers
Miami.
diving in. Yes, exactly.
Best guess.
R.I.P.
Best guess. Does this happen to any? Do they do this? Do they suspend a player for a playoff game? Any other player in the league?
Nope.
And history?
The suspension was based in part on Green's history of unsportsmanlike acts. They're telling you.